mind, I would like to get started with our session on adapting our coastal cities. We'll be listening to a keynote, followed by a panel discussion, and closing the session with a fireside chat interview. So it'll be fully packed 1.5 hours, and I would like to dive as deep as possible, and I hope you leave the room with some very concrete examples, ideas, and takeaways in mind, not just being scared by the number I just shared with you. Having said that, I'm delighted to introduce our two keynote speakers. First up, we have Hajar Yagkoubi. She's the co-founder of Network 2100, which advocates for youth inclusion in corporate leadership. She's also a former UN youth representative from the Netherlands, where she collected input from young people on human rights, security, and the climate crisis, which she brought up in conversations with prime ministers, legislators, and politicians. So she really showed a true commitment to bridging the gap between generations, fostering a more sustainable future. And with her on stage, we'll have Henk Ovink, who is the Executive Director for the Global Commission on the Economics of Water and a Senior Fellow at the World Resource Institute. Last year, he co-led the second UN Water Conference, which is, by the way, the first since 1977. And he served on the President Obama's Hurricane Sandy Rebuilding Task Force, initiated the National Disaster Resilience and Rebuild by Design competition. Please welcome those two on stage, Hajar and Henk.
Wow, great to be here.
Yeah, thanks Mara also for that wonderful introduction, getting us blushing on the stage.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if this
works, right? Yeah.
This works. So when I was asked to do a keynote, I asked Hajar to join me, because talking about water is talking about partnerships, and Hajar not only knows everything about partnership, but it's also very good to do this together.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we will see in the presentation today, that it's really about making sure that we work together across sectors, across our own interests, our own beliefs, notions of what we think is the right way, and also across generations. Not to call you old, Henk,
yeah,
but still, I am young. But that is something that we really want to embody today. We're going to do that through, with the red thread being water. And maybe I can ask you that, Henk, that question. You're Henk, the water guy. Yeah. But can you maybe, as we start, tell us more about the state of fresh water right now? Is the crisis becoming better? Is it worsening in that sense?
Yeah, I have to say it's getting worse and worse every day. We're losing fresh water at a rate unprecedented, never seen before. Although, you know, this image, we all know, we think the planet is blue. If I vacuum clean this whole planet, it doesn't show up as a Swiss cheese with holes in it. It's still that, and all the water of the planet is this big sphere, but if you really look closely, which probably you can't see, there's like this tiny little blue dot, and that is all the fresh water that we can use, and that is diminishing at a rate unprecedented. Yeah. And that is because we talk about a hydrological cycle. Water is evaporating, coming back, and you see two colors, blue and green. Green water is the often forgotten water that is in our plants, on the moisture, and that's evotransportation in the atmosphere, supercharging that atmosphere and being the source for climate change, not only its impact. And this hydrological cycle is broken. We are changing, humans, by land use planning, deforestation, and everything else, our economic development, the source of fresh water, and we can no longer count on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we see it in disasters across the world. This is 2023 and 2024. I can do 20 of those slides. Every year, these disasters become more extreme and more frequent. And this is the old days, a little bit the me's of the world, white male engineers, although I'm not an engineer, sitting in a room solving a problem, but that won't do the trick now.
Yeah, Houston, we have a problem. I like the quote indeed. Because that's in essence what we need to do, right? It's about redesigning the way in which we look at things, and you know, the best way to do that is to diversify the people that you're doing it with. We need everybody on board because we know that we are poised on the brink of the precipice, and if we don't act and if we don't include different generations across the board, different people, then we're not going to be able to solve it.
Yeah, Secretary General Guterres was very clear. This is the time, this time where pressures are hard, to be very generous, but also embrace the science. We have to know what's at stake, but we also have to do it together. So a time for science and solidarity.
Yeah.
To provoke partnerships that are really driving the change that we so much need.
Yeah, and we got some examples for you to show you what that partnership could look like. If you look at this overly joyed picture here, you can see Henk in the middle, me on the left, and Shomi, she is here in the room. Where is Shomi? There in the back. Some people that are here are also present, but this is one of the examples that we wanted to show you where it's really about creating partnerships, right? So this was a design sprint that we did last May in The Hague. It was for the All Systems Connect Symposium, really focusing on how we need to overbridge and rethink our ways of thinking around WASH. So what we did is that for 3 days, it was a pressure cooker, folks, I can tell you. We got together with young people and we're intergenerationally, because you were also there with us, Henk, as a mentor, which really helped us to sort of strip away all our beliefs, all our notions that we sort of prejudices, biases that we have, and really get to the core of a clean slate of thinking that we needed to do. We came up with a couple of examples of solutions that we have, but I'll get to that later on in the presentation. If we go to the next one, I have a different example of partnerships, because this is a picture that was taken at the Thai-Myanmar border, and it was specifically a protest against a hydropower project on the Salween River there. This picture was taken in 2017. But this goes to show, right? I mean, the essence of water is that it knows no borders. And this partnership is the embodiment of that. People coming together from different regions, different countries, because our partnerships shouldn't know any borders in that sense as well. So that's another example that we have there. And the next one. So this is something that Mara also mentioned in the introduction already, but I am one of the co-founders of an intergenerational network called 2100. And what we really do with 2100 is that we have this network that exists for half out of young people, and the other half of the network consists of executives in boardrooms of, let's say, the top 100 companies in the Netherlands. It's supervisory, it's non-executive, it's executive. But the common denominator here is that everybody that is a part of that group, of the network, has a different vision on how we need to transform our economic system in a way to ensure that we still have a livable planet in 2100. Because the thing is, in our accounting systems, in the way in which we conduct pricing, and many of the economic systems conventions that we have, financial value creation is king, right? We don't look as often at ecological value that we're creating. We don't look as often at social value, human capital that we're creating. And if we do, then very often there are some at the forefront of that transparency in giving what the impacts are, but we also need that transparency and take it to transformation. So if you're disclosing on your broader impact, how can you actually make sure that you act on it? And you do it through true pricing, you do it through impact accounting, you do it through rethinking and redesigning the ways in which our economic systems are shaped. And that is something that we really try to do, also by bringing these young people in boardrooms to bring that 2100 perspective, because they might still be alive then.
Yeah, so going immediately to that, we have to understand the true value. But right now, we value profits, not value. Yeah. There's a business case, in my words, or stupid infrastructure that actually makes our planet worse off. IPCC report, Climate Change and Land, in the middle, actually tells us that over 99% of global investments increase climate change and make us more vulnerable because it destroys everything we value. And that business case is off. It's disconnected from our SDGs, from our Paris Agreement, from our CBD agreement. Yeah. So we have to work on the alternative to overcome this lock-in in the books, in the boardrooms, and in the way we take account, and bypass the stupidity. Because business as usual is lethal. It's not only not enough, it's killing ourselves and our planets and insecuring our future. There is an alternative, though. So this is not the story of trouble only. There is a way where we bypass, and the slide turned from white to black, so I think there's a reason for that, from becoming very non-responsive in the context of the challenges and disasters we faced. Currently, we're constantly reactive. Every day a disaster, every day a response. Politicians around the world, especially also here in Europe, respond to protests instead of that they provoke them with an alternative, a future orientation, something that is proactive, that is leaning on those SDGs and beyond, and really taking a climate agreement serious by putting it into practice. And there comes water. Being the water ambassador for quite a bit and working on water around the world, not being a hydrologist, but a designer and a planner, I found water as a friend because it connects across everything. Water connects every SDG. It's there for health, for the environment, for climate, it's for biodiversity, it's for our cities, our economy, our energy, it's for corporation, it's for finance and governance, it's for everything. And if we're able to understand that complexity, value it accordingly, and manage it at every scale, we are able to change course.
Yeah. And one thing I am curious about, this is actually not in the presentation, but when we have all these solutions, and you very specifically showed, right, that we know what the issues are, and at the same time we have all these alternative conventions. Yeah. So we have the SDGs, and we have the COP on biodiversity, and we have the COP on climate, and you were the co-lead of the UN Water Conference, the first one in 46 years. While we have that, there's still this gap, right, that we don't seem to be able to bridge, because the solutions are there and we don't act on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the challenge is that we don't see the alternative because the books are wrong. Leading the Global Commission on the Economics on Water, we value a profit on the short term, while we understand. I think we're in the wrong room here, because you all are agreeing in agreement. So preaching to the choir. Although yesterday somebody said here in this room, we don't need young people in the boardroom. What? We do need young people in the boardroom. We do need to lower, I think, the age of being able to vote, to have that presence, but also to look across sector silos beyond, because it's not happening.
Right.
And innovation design projects working on alternatives can help. We need to spur that action by presenting alternatives that show that the future is here and now and that it is possible.
Right.
I like how design can help in bringing solutions together that are very comprehensive, cutting across scales, but it's also important that that alternative is provoking the existing system. And in that sense, those alternatives become political because they're ambitious, they're generous in the way that they include everyone, but they're also provocations to what is now wrong, what is now a lock-in. But it's not easy because, and that's what we talked about prior to this talk, how do you come together? How do you bring this diversity of voices together? Because we don't trust each other. Sometimes we hate each other, we kill each other, and figuring out how those multiple voices in one room stick together, it's really about building safety and trust in that conversation.
Yeah, and I love this is also what you've included about that, right? That it's so important that we create safe spaces to do that. And well, there's a formal definition that we have on the screen, but if we go to the next slide, I said I would come back to this, but this was a safe space, and it was because of all the different people that we had. But Henk, not to make you blush on the stage, I know that we didn't plan this, but I do want to take a moment to say that in this entire 3-day sprint process, you were there with us, you came and you sat with us, and there were really heated moments, because you should see it as a sort of 3-day pressure cooker where we really sort of strip away all these previously held notions and beliefs, and we start from ground one when we say, okay, what's the problem? How do we come up with solutions? And there were some pivotal moments where and that I will tell you in a bit. But there were some moments, you were there with us as well, and I asked Shomi, she's there, I asked Valerie, I asked some of the other people here on the screen yesterday through WhatsApp what they remembered about working with you. And the first thing they said is humility is something I've heard. It's being able to listen, it's making space for others, it's genuine curiosity to what the other has to say. And I think that to me, and I really don't want to make you blush and flatter you too much on stage here, but I do truly think you embodied that notion, and I think it gave us so much space to stand in our own courage, because what happened here is that one of the groups, there was an end presentation that we would have in this big room at this conference, right? And it would be filled to the brim with all the people, and for 3 days they had been hyping everyone up and saying, oh, there's these sprint groups, and they will come up with the solution to the issue. And one of the groups, they came to the conclusion the evening before we had to present that we don't have a solution. Shit. I don't know if I can swear bigger words, but we use bigger words. We were like, what are we going to do? Because there's an expectation. People want to see it. And then we thought, okay, we could like easily maybe think of something and then just find something just to present so that we have something and we don't have nothing to say on stage. But what they decided to do in the end is that they got up on stage in a room full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and they said, the truth of the matter is, we don't have a solution yet. We're getting there, we're in a process. I know that you all expected it, but we don't have it yet. And we had 10 different alternatives that were semi-good that we could present to you and present as this thing that we came up with, but we're not going to do that because we don't want to add to maladaptation. They realize that one of the issues that we have is that sometimes we are so much fighting to protect our egos and this notion of ourselves that we're unable to admit when we sometimes don't know that we're there yet. And to me, this is rooted in courage, and courage is only able to exist when there are people, honestly, like you, Henk, that provide that space and provide the safeness for others and the warmth and the embracing of others to do that. But it's also what we need nowadays, because to me personally, I think courage is the most important virtue of all the virtues out there. Because without courage, we cannot practice any other virtue consistently. We cannot be consistently kind or consistently just if we don't have the courage to protect it in each and every situation. And I think that's the importance of those safe spaces that we need to create.
Courage and a level of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Acknowledging in this sense the case that we did not have the solution, at the same time a vulnerability that is so open that it's really inviting.
Yeah.
Making sure that in the context of not knowing yet, there is an opportunity of knowing tomorrow. Because it was not the acknowledgement that there was no knowledge or no capacity,
right.
It was not yet. We need more time, we need a broader scope, this pressure cooker did not work for us, we need more.
Yeah.
Working post Hurricane Sandy in the New York region, because this is a session about coastal cities that need to adapt, there was that courage, but also that understanding that we have to know what is at stake, what went wrong, and what can go right, and how can we provoke that future. Again, I helped and developed and led Rebuild by Design, a sidestep, as this image shows, out of the lock-in of institutional practices and political divides that were so present after Obama's re-election. A process where we literally brought the whole world together, over 500 organizations, across 140 neighborhoods in this region, bringing together Occupy Sandy, Governor Christie and the Obama administration, NGOs living on the coast, being vulnerable, and identifying the projects. If you want to know about the projects, buy the book. Sandy was post-disaster, which we often find ourselves. Pre-disaster, looking into regions like Asia, identifying hotspots, we came across the opportunity to again create that safe space and called it water as leverage, water as a catalyst for the change that we're seeking. Building safe spaces out on the streets, bringing community, professionals, innovators together from across the world to work with these communities and not only identify the opportunities, but implement and scale them across this region. This is an example from Chennai where a broken water system was mended with nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions that empower the neighborhood, empower the community, and in this case, a school for the deaf and blind in Chennai that now have a water system that captures all the stormwater, treats the wastewater and recharges the aquifer, monitored by the kids on the school and owned as a playground for everyone, mitigating also climate change and the heatland effects that come with them. Some things with the slide. So we did that in Semarang too, and also in Kulna, and we're now scaling that up around the world, literally all the way to Europe, and this is in Hamburg. Yes. So the alternative is important, that vulnerability and outreach is key, knowing what's at stake, and at the same time we need to scale and replicate, because the alternative now is still less than a percentage of global investment. And if that one needs to become 2, 4, 16 and a majority, we have to do everything we can. Yeah. Everything we can. It's not easy. There is no silver bullet behind it, but it's a necessity. And water can really help because it's about too much, too little, and polluted across every SDG and everything we value. That's why we brought the world together at the UN Water Conference last year. 10,000 people at the UN talking about water and water innovations that drive health, security, equity, and equality. That conference set a bar, and that bar is what we have to capture. Yeah. In the Anthropocene, our age, water has to be seen as a global common good. And we can only do that if we do that together.
In
right?
partnerships, yeah. That's what we try to embody here on stage for you. I mean, Henk and I, we know each other for a little while. I've been able to follow a bit of your journey that you do on water, that you've been doing for so much longer, before I was even born. So let's not get into the timelines. But it really is about getting together, and it really is about doing that across generations, across our own interests, our own beliefs, by redesigning, scaling up, reshaping our systems and structures so that they really bring value for all. And I think that that is at the core of it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.